Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are all having a blessed day. Hey, listen, on my playlist, Pastor Bob's Garage, I've gotten a lot of comments about registering a motorcycle and buying a motorcycle without the proper paperwork. And even on some of the different Ironhead sites that I belong to, you see those questions asked all the time. So I wanted to do a video and address some of these questions. So first of all, I'm no expert. I live in California, and every single state is different. And the reason I'm no expert in my own state is because every year the rules change. Now, I've built several motorcycles and had to go down and deal with the DMV and the California Highway Patrol, so I know how it works here. But like I say, the rules change. And you never want to listen to anybody as knowing exactly what they're talking about if they're from a different state than you, because every state is different. So listen, I bought this 1974 Ironhead, and I was just sitting there on Craigslist, and it came up totally original, right down to the exhaust, everything original, and it was only $1,800. And so I instantly called the number, and the lady lived, over 100 miles away. But I called her up and she said, yeah, she said, it was my brother's bike and he died. And the bike is up in Sacramento. So that's not far from where I live. So I said, I'd like to go see it. So she gave me the number of the guy that was handling the estate. And so I ran over there. And I went in, and this bike was in a garage. It had been setting for 24 years. Had a great big puddle underneath of it. And the guy said, yeah, he said, it's like frozen in place. The brakes are all locked up. Tires are all flat, everything. So I said, do you have a title for it? And he goes, no. He goes, we went through all of his paperwork, and we couldn't find anything. But he says, I've been a friend of his for years. I know it's his bike. And his sister said the same thing when I talked to her. So at that point, it was a little bit of a risk. But these were old people. They were all very old. And I don't think that two old people like that are going to set up a scam like that. So I went ahead and I bought the bike. So lo and behold, I get it home. I go down to the DMV, and I walked into the DMV and I said, yeah, I bought a bike. It's a 1974. It's been setting since 99. And so the lady goes into the computer and she pulls it up. Now in California, they'll tell you that anything that's been out of the system for over 4 years is not supposed to be there. But that's a total crapshoot, and it certainly didn't work with this one because it had been out of the system for 24 years and it was still in it. So listen. I got a couple of hurdles. The guy that died, his name was Earl, but all of a sudden on the title, there's a lien holder. And this lien holder is named John. And I found out there's a lien holder on the bike. The lady says, you can't register it. We got to find out who this person is. So I went back and I called the lady up and I said, listen, I said, I went down to register that bike and there's a lien holder on it. And she goes, you're kidding. I go, no. And I said, I gave her the guy, John, I gave her the guy's name. And she goes, oh, he's an old family friend. She's known him for, 40 years. And she says, well, I don't know why he would be on the lien. But I said, yeah, because I said, if he's on the lien, then you don't have the right to sell the bike. She goes, well, go ahead and call him up and find out why he's on there. So I called this guy up, and he didn't even know his friend has died. And I explained the whole thing to him. I said he had this Harley, and John said, yeah, I know the bike well. And I said, well, his sister sold it to me in his estate sale, but you're on the lien. And the DMV says, that, hey, it's your bike. Otherwise, you need to sign and release your name off the lien. I said, did he owe you money or something? Why are you on the title? He goes, yeah, that turkey used to borrow money from me all the time. And I guess he put me on the title so I'd have his bike when he died. But shoot, I'm 85 years old right now. I got Parkinson's. I can't ride the thing. He goes, send me I'm not going to cause his sister any trouble. Just send me over the paperwork and I'll sign it. And he did. So then I went down to the DMV and I got the clean title in my name. So that all worked out good. But had he said no, he owes me $2,000, I would have had to have given him the bike, and his sister would have had to pay me back my $1,800 that I paid for it. So anyway, all that turned out good. Well, this is what happened to me in another incident. My cousin Arnold was living in South Carolina. Hurricane Hugo came through and wiped out one of his sheds, and he had his iron head in it. And needless to say, he had to go out there and he found the handlebar sticking up out of the mud. So he was going to Alaska, and he called me up and said, hey, my iron head isn't running, hadn't run in a long time. Can I drop it off at your house? You want to get it running, get it cleaned up for me? And I said, sure, drop it off. So he drops it off, and I fired it up. Within a day, I had it running. I was riding it around. So he didn't have a title for it. He couldn't find it. And he said it was registered in his name in South Carolina, but he couldn't find the title anywhere. So I said, okay, so I got it running, and I had to go to the DMV, or excuse me, to the California Highway Patrol to get the numbers checked before I could get a California title. So you pull into the Highway Patrol, they separate you from the motorcycle. I had to go into this one waiting room, and the bike went into this cage. And so pretty soon, in about 30 minutes, the guy comes out there to get me. And he sits down next to me and he says, well, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And I go, well, what's the bad news? He goes, the numbers on the frame have been altered. I go, you're kidding. He goes, nope, come with me. He took me out there, and they had sprayed dye penetrant on the numbers and then used an ultraviolet light, and you could tell that the numbers were altered. So he said, this frame has been stolen and the numbers are altered. And I go, man, listen, I said, my cousin has owned this bike for over 30 years. He goes, well, he says, I have no doubt that you didn't steal it. I mean, you're a resident of California, the bike's from Georgia. He says, this is what I'll do. I'm going to give you back the bike. I'm going to give you 72 hours to strip everything off of it, and then you're going to bring me back the frame and we're going to destroy it. And I said, shoot, that sounds good to me. So I took the bike home, stripped it down to nothing, kept the engine, everything on it, and they destroyed that. I had to take the frame back, and they destroyed the frame. And my cousin had that bike registered, and I guess Georgia, I mean South Carolina, they're not like California. But anyway, we lost the frame to that bike. So listen, the last time I built a shovel head, my 1970 shovel head, when I built it, I had the title for the engine, and I bought a Craft Tech frame, and it came with an MSO, a manufacturer's statement of origin for that frame. And when I got that bike built, I had to take it right back down to that same highway patrolman, and they took the bike and they checked the engine number, they checked the frame, they checked everything, gave it back to me, said it's good, sent me to the DMV. And the lady at the DMV, she wouldn't let me have a 1970 title, Harley Davidson title, because it was a Harley engine with a different frame. They had to marry the two together, and then I got a special construction title for that one. So listen, in the state of California, if you have an intact bike, right, frame and a motor that came together, numbers match, if you separate them, if you divorce that engine from that frame, you have to have a copy of the title, and a copy of the title goes with the motor, and a copy of the title goes with the frame, so the new owner can get it registered. And then what he'll do is whatever, if he has the frame, he puts a different motor in it, he's got to go down and they marry the two together. So listen, I have one more story. When I was out at McClellan, there was a guy out there that bought a motorcycle, and I believe it was a shovel head. And he bought this thing, and the guy he bought it from had no title, gave him a bill of sale. Well, this guy completely rebuilt that bike, and I mean, he spent a lot of money on it. And then he went down to the highway patrol to get the numbers run, just like I've done so many times. Well, they came in and told him, they said, listen, dude, that bike's stolen. that bike is stolen. And he showed them the bill of sale. And they said, well, we have no doubt that you didn't steal it, but the bike's stolen and you're free to leave. But that bike is going back to the original owner. And the guy says, look, I've got, you know, 5-6 grand in that bike. And they said, it doesn't matter. It's stolen. You're not getting anything off of it. You're free to leave, and the new owner will come and pick his bike up. Guys, that's the way it works. So listen, this is the deal. Whenever you go to buy a bike, you need to check that title that that person has, and you need to check the engine number and the frame number and make sure that those numbers match the title. And then you need to make sure the name on the title is the guy that's selling you the bike. And what I also like to do is I make sure the address on that title is the same address that I'm at, that I went to buy the thing at. That way I know the dude's legit, the bike's legit, and that's his house, he lives there. You never want to go meet somebody in a parking lot. If you go to buy a bike and the guy says, well, I don't know the title, but I'll give you a bill of sale, and he wants to meet you in a parking lot, forget it. If you go to a swap meet and there's a nice frame there that you want or an engine, if they don't have the paperwork, don't buy it, because it's a crapshoot if it's stolen or not. You know, one time I was with a friend of mine that went to buy a bike, and he asked the guy flat out, he said, hey, can I give you a deposit and I'll run it over to the highway patrol and have them run the numbers? And the guy was like, no way, you're not doing that. Nope, I'll sell it to somebody else. I'm not going through all that. See, that was a total farce right there. So guys, listen, in all this, it's always buyer beware. Buyer beware. Because now, I mean, I could have lost this one with that guy whose name was on the title, but if it doesn't have an MSO, which is a manufacturer statement of origin for a frame or even an aftermarket engine, don't buy it. And if the guy's going to give you a bill of sale for something, you know, you make sure that you check his driver's license and write down his name so that the cops can go talk to him if need be. But it's always, guys, listen, I don't buy anything anymore without a correct title, because there's so many scams going on nowadays that you're the one that's going to get burned. Just like the guy that built that bike, we had to spend all that money on it, and the cops wouldn't let him take all his stuff off and give the guy back his original bike. No, he lost everything. You know, there's a scripture that I find very funny, and it's found in Proverbs 20, verse 14. And I'm ad-libbing this, but this is basically what it says. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, says the buyer. But then when he goes his way, he brags to all of his friends about what a good deal he got. And guys, that's always the way it is. Well, anyway, like I said, I've dealt with the DMV and the California Highway Patrol many times on many different bikes, and the rules keep changing. But what I've learned in all my years of doing that is, if it doesn't have an MSO, a statement of origin, or a title, I'm not buying it. So anyway, I hope that clears a few things up. You guys all have a blessed week. Hey, if you liked the video, give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to go on my channel, I've got a playlist. It's called Pastor Bob's Garage, and it's not how-to videos. What I give you is a lot of shop advice, how to make things in your garage run a little bit smoother. Anyway, I hope you guys all have a blessed week.